one that we came up, and you really addressed this in your talk. There, first, I want to say thank you. Thank you for getting up here and being vulnerable and being candid and asking us, Creative Mornings, the tough questions. Would we have said something? Would we have had 3 black speakers back to back? Would we have had 3 black females? So I really appreciate, I know that that's a stress, even asking that. So I wanted to say from Creative Mornings, thank you for being here today. Thank you for the additional stress you may have had as a mother. I understand that there's a lot going on, so I thank you for that.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
So I also, one awesome thing that you said is you said you have been on HBO, Netflix, Airbnb, and you were still didn't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. You are a global marketing guru, creative. How do people come over that to say, like, I am here, have the confidence to do that?
You know what? I really believe that it matters with who you surround yourself with. I am just now realizing how I keep referencing co-star because gosh, I didn't get to finish my statement about Mario Radford, but I kept saying to him, I know it's not of God, I know it's not of God, and I'm a very spiritual person, and he said, why do you keep saying that? And I said, and really it's just because I had heard members of his community in particular, kind of clown astrology. And he said, if God made all the stars, how do we think that can't be in alignment in some form? So stop saying that and just talk. But co-star would say to me that I should stop trying to find a home in everyone else. And what I realized was that I was using that as a clutch because I couldn't do graphic design or couldn't do this or that, and then I realized that actually, no, I can, and so, in doing that though, I was so dependent on people so much for so much. And that created this space of not being super secure and solid in who I am and feeling like I always needed someone before I could actually say, I did this. And I think with all the work that I've done, truthfully, it felt like such a small piece of the puzzle, the people behind the camera versus being the person in front. And I thought, and I was going to say this in my talk, that if you called HBO today and said, hey, who's Samantha Johnson? They're going to be like, we don't know. Right. They're not going to know. But, somebody will.
Right.
But I think that's how I look at it, and I'm shifting that mindset because there are friends of mine constantly reminding me. But I think that I was around people who allowed me to stay in that space, stay dependent for so long. They did not push me. They encouraged me, but did not push me beyond that. And a good leader is someone that wants to see you go and do and grow beyond them. And so I'm just now kind of getting into that space. And the women who have afforded me these opportunities, the black women, Shannon Simpson-Jones and Yadira Harrison, who own a Verb out of LA and New York City, have really pushed me beyond all of that.
And that's where you got to this point where you're saying, no, I can say I am a global marketer. I worked for these companies.
Yeah, I mean, actually, one of them was the one who said, like, what was that tweet? Little, we don't do little, and so I was like, you're right. But I didn't even share it. I didn't even share it with my core group because I still felt like, I don't know. And my grandma's birthday is today. Happy birthday, Gran. Love you. And she kept saying, I do not want a drive-by. I do not want all of that attention. I do not want. And I said, I really think, and this is me thinking like I'm like a low-key therapist after working at high anxiety for 30 days. I'm like, I really think the issue is that we haven't learned how to accept, being celebrated truly. And I come from a family of women in particular who will get a compliment and say, oh, this old thing, instead of just thank you. It's a challenge, but we are growing through that. So yeah.
So the next one I saw was, how do you know, you talked a lot about saying yes, yes, yes. When are the opportunities to say no?
Someone asked me if I'd ever quit anything a couple of years ago, and I said no. And I still haven't. I actually quit one job. I worked one day at Wendy's after they made me clean a bathroom. I wanted it as a part-time job during college, worked at a bank full-time. And I didn't even quit then. I took my uniform and gave it to my coworker at US Bank, and I said, can you go and quit for me? And he went through the draft and said, Samantha Johnson quits here, and threw it in. I just haven't ever really said no. I've said yes to so much that it's almost contributed to so much of my stress. I just recently learned how to say no to my kid, without feeling bad about it. but I am getting there, because the truth is, as things are opening up and I'm walking through all of these doors, some of them have to shut. And I'm actually looking forward to that happening. I'm just starting a creative consultancy work with Kentucky for Kentucky, and it's amazing. And it's my first time, I just said, I ever realized that work could be stress-free, that I could get on a call and just shoot the shit about ideas, you know? King is probably dying that I said a bad word. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so I'm just now realizing that I have to say no to something, and that time is coming. I actually have a couple of things that I'll be saying no to, and just to say, you know, I joked about, but I'm very serious about being in this season of grief, in a sense, because, you know, well, Shabaka has passed away, who's been my right hand for quite some years now at the night market. And, you know, it seems like a lot of the people closest to me have passed away just across the summer. And so you have, you know, time hop and Facebook memories, and they're constantly reminding you of all these things. But then you're grieving what the old life looked like before pandemic. And I'm learning to accept that and grow through that. And so I have learned to say no to some old relationships that I've had, because it no longer serves me. And so how have I done that? I just did it, because it wore me into the ground to the point that I mean, you know, you got to do what's best for you. So
I have two more questions, and
Okay.
I'll look to Jason if they have any more questions. One, you talked about the stress of being a mom. And so as a mom, I think so much of that. And you talked about, you know, sometimes I love what I do, but I also love being a mom and when to say no to being a mom. Talk a little bit more about that. Any advice for me as being a mom?
Well, let me say this. You know, my support system is extremely strong, and the main reason that I shared what I shared the other day on Facebook about this talk today was so that I could publicly thank those who have been so incredible in our corner the past year and a half to 2 years, specifically when I've been able to just hop on a flight with Delta, which is why I work there, by the way, for free flights, so that I can show up tomorrow anywhere. I can be there in 3 hours if it's the West Coast, you know. But they have been just right there. And so that's a lot of the reason why I haven't had to say no to opportunities, because they're always there. But, you know, people say, you know, oh, I just love motherhood. I don't know where my life would be without it. And the truth is, I love my son. I do not love extra added responsibility to any degree. I don't care if it's more work at my job, if it's more bags on the Delta plane that I'm loading, if I got to wear it's all the things. I don't love the extra added responsibility of wearing a mask while I'm grocery shopping. So I just go straight digital now, and I don't even go. I just let someone bring it to me because I know, you know. But you know, you cannot change some things, you know, and being a parent is something that you don't get to change. But what I can do is just to change my world around, shift the things around. So again, if I wake up at 8 a.m. and I do want a drink of champagne, I'm going to take it before I wake him up and say, breakfast is ready. And that's just an example. Don't get me wrong. I don't even have champagne in the refrigerator right now. But that's my drink of choice if I was going to go for something. I mean, mimosas, right? They're acceptable in the morning. But you know, I think that's how I juggle motherhood. I find what works best for me. And you know, Hamilton came out, and I was like, oh, this is it, because my kid is a theater kid all day. So I know that the Hamilton's going to babysit him this weekend, and I'm going to be able to get work done and you know and push through. So you know, I fit motherhood into what works for me. I don't try to work everything else around that, because you know, the truth is, I do know where my life would be had I not been a mom. You know, and my business is called Sam Manhattan. I know that's a little difficult. Sam Manhattan, because I was obsessed with New York. All of my first careers, thetruth.com, the old smoking campaigns and all those things. I was there for all of that. And I thought that New York was going to be my home forever. I was there for about 30 days when I realized that it wasn't. And I came back because I had a kid, you know, and there's just the name of the business there. I thought about changing it a million times, but it kind of is what it is at this point. But you know, like that's one time I had to like say, I can't do this because I'm a parent, you know, and that was a hard pill to swallow, but then I just learned how to pivot, and I learned how to make it work for me.
Well, thank you for talking about motherhood. I don't think we can talk about stress without talking about for those people who are on the line who are parents. So, and then I'm going to throw it back to Jason here in a minute, but I have one last question. Of all the projects you have worked on, do you have a favorite?
Ooh. Yeah, I will say not necessarily a favorite project, But a favorite client that Verb in particular has had me to work with, and that is Crown Mag, who that is co-founded or owned and I think it's co-founded by Lindsay Day and Nkrumah, and I cannot think of his last name, but they are such authentically black, an authentically black brand. They do nothing fast and quick turnaround. They take their time. The pages in their magazine, it's a coffee table book, you know. They embrace all of the beauty that is blackness. And that is so important because I've noticed that even my kid, when I talk about, oh, let's go to Africa, somewhere along the way at 8 years old, he has been told or taught that that was not a place of beauty, you know? So we watched Black is King by Beyonce on Disney, and he's like, that's Africa? Like, what? I thought they were all, you know, and I'm like, ah. And so, you know, honestly, my family is proud and they're awesome and they have done all the things. You know, they're amazing black men and women, but we never really openly talked about our race and what that meant to us and how to be proud about it. And working with Crown Mag in particular has really shown me how to really embrace all of that. I don't know that I really would be openly bald, you know, had I not really worked with them and been in spaces like Afropunk in Brooklyn and there's a Curl Fest in New York City, spaces that have just been completely consumed with black women, but all types, shapes, and sizes. So I would say anything that they have done has probably been my absolute favorite, because it has just reminded me at every step of the way to just be everything that I am, just as natural as it comes.
Keep learning about more and more of your clients and your freelance work, and it just is amazing. So, Jason, I want to see if there's any, I thought I saw a couple questions in the chat, if we want to spotlight and unmute any questions in the chat.
Yeah, so we had one from Tanya saying, Samantha, can you talk about the stress of black women and other women of color who have received national recognition and jobs, but do not find respect in Lexington for their craft? We see this so often.
Was that a comment or a question?
That was a question. I think that was a question. So for those who get national recognition but don't get recognition in Lexington, any comments on that? Yeah.
That, you know, that, what is it that, what do I say to that? Is that what she's asking?
I think
I have a comment, but I want, okay, so let me just share. My comment is that, you know, me too. Me too. And then that's not that I've been nationally recognized per se, but no one was interested really in truly picking my brain until they were on a yacht in Cannes with Verb, who casually mentioned, oh yeah, Kentucky, I work with Samantha. You know, and then it seemed like there was more interest in me because I've been sitting here, I've been doing the work. Hashtag white market is no longer, because I've been doing the work at the night market. You know, when I came, that's what it was. So one, what I would say to that is shame. If you watch Game of Thrones, that's what came in my head, shame. But also wake up. It's time, we're here, and we've been doing amazing things, and I don't think that's, you know, you have to like backtrack and necessarily go apologize, but just like do better moving forward to the companies, to those who are in places to recognize those, in particular black women who have had national recognition, global recognition. It is time, and it's time to do it beyond, you know, giving us a one and done. Just to be clear, you know, don't expect anything from us for free. Always have a budget or walk away. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I missed the question, but yeah.
Was that Jason? Was there any other? And I see Lachey over there snapping, so we can see you guys. To Tanya's question, did she answer that?
Yeah, just asking for a commentary on that.
Yeah.
And then Shonda also asked, besides your mantra, what does your morning routine look like that encourages you to push through and start every day?
Well, we have Alexa in the house now. And so it usually starts with my son saying, Alexa, call the other Alexa, And like our house isn't even that big, right? And so I am one of those moms who is like so extra all the time. And so I probably get up, I have my coffee. I love coffee. I love the smell, the taste of it. I don't even know if it really works. It's just, I just like it really. And so I make coffee, and I'm really trying to get into the habit of using my planner. I like digital, but I like to write in mine, but I'm not the best at doing that ahead of time. And so I usually know before I go to bed, like what my first meeting is. And because there are so many jobs, I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything, check my text messages. Right now, the first thing that I do, I wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. every morning, just clockwork, because we got time, you know. And if I had somewhere to be, it'd be a struggle. This morning was a struggle. I yawned like 4 times before she called me on stage, honestly. And I was like, how is this possible if I was at home? So I wake up and I check my phone for any spam. Everybody's trying to sell Bitcoin on high anxiety account. And I delete all of that. I go through all the high anxiety things. I check our DMs to see if anyone's tried to commit suicide or has threatened that. And you know, we just go through our woes with that. And so that is kind of my shift. I've just kind of taken on that early morning shift. But I'll ask Alexa to play something a lot of times as my son is walking down the stairs, just to greet him, and it might be something crazy. And right now our favorite thing is to pretend rap to Hamilton instrumentals. And so he really is not a big fan of rap at all at 8 years old, and I am. And so I'm always like, yo, King, what's up? It's mommy, you know, and he's like, good morning, hi. But, you know, and I don't know if like I've had so much, like if I've pushed on him so much toxic positivity that he's just like, what's the best that can happen? Okay, bye. You know, because when he goes in the bathroom, there's a shower curtain. And so I just really try to just make sure that he's in a positive mindset, that if he's good, I'm good. You know, when he's not good, and that means that work needs to take a break, that we need to sit. We have been driving before in the car, and I'm like, oh, something's wrong, you don't want to say, oh, you don't know what? I will pull over, I don't care where we are, side of the road, highway, whatever, get out and sit in the back seat with him, because we need to be here, what's going on? And he knows he's allowed to not be so great every day, because, you know, feelings aren't facts, but then we still have them. And so, you know, a lot of my morning routine is just trying to just set the atmosphere, honestly. That's what we do. And then we go in. Listen, I am tunnel vision for work. And so we have to be, every 2 weeks when I get paid, it's Lego day. Because I know that Legos can be my sitter for a little bit. I don't know what school's gonna look like. We had our orientation last night. And I'm kind of nervous about that, because I'm like, what's the routine look like? It needs to be written down. But I'm trying to be so intentional about not becoming this perfectionist that I had become during the school year, where my son was waking up on Friday mornings stressed about the spelling test, because somewhere along the line I told him he couldn't fail, you know, and so he's like anxious about it. He's never gotten one wrong, but he was so anxious about it. And so I'm trying to make sure that I just incorporate all the things that I talked to you about today, and just do our best, you know, and give ourselves so much grace. Every day I remind myself we should give ourselves so much grace. I look in the mirror. On the way here, we prayed. We pray in the morning. It doesn't matter what we're doing. I could be buttering toast, and I'm like, you know what? We just want to give thanks for the day. Thanks for waking us up. And the favorite thing to say is, please bless everyone, everywhere, every day. So yeah, that's probably what it looks like for the most part.
Such a great mantra, and I wish they can't see, but while you're speaking, I get to look at your son and his reactions to all of this. So an amazing component of being a mother. Jason, any last comments? Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Samantha the floor for just a last bow, and then I'm going to thank everyone, and that's how we'll end our talk. So any last questions, Jason?
Last question was that people want to know where you got your sneakers.
I got them yesterday at Fayette Mall, and I think every store had them. So Foot Locker, I believe, and apparently I was in with my earbuds, and some song came on. First of all, a huge Megan Thee Stallion fan. If my kid hadn't been in the car, I'd have been like all the way here this morning. But we had to shoot for Happy by Pharrell Williams. But I got them yesterday in Fayette Mall. And there was a young entrepreneur in town, Heather Grant, who had been trying to call my name, and I don't know who else was trying to call my name throughout there, because I had on full blast. And finally she said, I was picking these shoes out, and she said, that must be good, whatever you got in those headphones. And I was just rocking out. So anyhow, yeah, I got them yesterday in the mall. They're not my favorite. I almost took them back. But because I love Pumas. I'm such a fan. I have a wide foot. But yeah, so anyhow, thanks guys. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I want to give it, Samantha, any last words to give to our audience, to give to Lexington, to give to your global marketing community.
Lexington, we see you trying. We see you making effort. I recently had a conversation with Dan Wu on his live talk on Facebook, and I mentioned that just because it doesn't sound like you want to hear it all the time, because some of us are louder than others, doesn't mean that you should listen any less to any of us or any more to the other. So just keep that in mind. Embrace all of us. To my fellow people of color, embrace all of us, everything that comes with us. That includes women, men, transgender, and anything else across the board. Let us be so intentional about loving one another. Be so intentional about change and shifting, not just the atmosphere in your own home, but in the world, to make this a better place, because not only are young Black men and women dependent on us, our futures as a whole, Lexington, our futures, our children's futures as a whole are dependent on this. I sat in the orientation last night with a Swahili interpreter and a Spanish-speaking interpreter, and the faces of so many of the white parents that were so offended because this was what now, taking extra time. You could see it without them saying anything. Your children were sitting there. Your children are sitting on these Zooms. Let us be mindful of what we say when the mute button is on behind the screen. Let us be mindful of what we say when the laptops go down. Be mindful of what you say at the dinner table. Let us be mindful because your children and my children play together. Let us be mindful across the board. What is the best that could happen if we all tried to do a little bit better? Thank you.
Well, with that, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank everyone that's here today, Studio 46. As we learn, as we grow, events will look a little bit different for us at Creative Mornings going forward, and we're trying to think intentionally about how we can still elevate our amazing our creatives here in Lexington, as well as how we can intentionally connect our creatives. The whole point of getting this together was that our coders and our designers and our entrepreneurs and our accountants and our lawyers connected through community. And now that we're in a virtual world, we are going to be creative and we're going to continue connecting our community. So it was so good to see all of your guys' faces. And with that, I think we're going to close us up. So thank you all.
Thank you.